The sound of metal grinding echoed through the quiet suburban street. A 1967 Mustang, my Mustang, was being dragged onto a flatbed truck like scrap. The paint still glowed under the morning sun, but the front wheels were already off the ground. A woman stood at the edge of my driveway holding a clipboard, watching it like she was overseeing a routine trash pickup. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't hiding. She was enjoying it. "Next one goes after that," she said casually. That's when I stepped out of my car. And everything stopped. The tow truck driver froze. One of my garage lights flickered inside the open door. And the woman finally turned toward me with a smile that didn't belong in reality. "You must be the tenant," she said. "You're late." I looked past her, into my own garage. Empty. Two more silhouettes on tow trucks, already strapped down. My Camaro. My Charger. Gone. I asked one question. "Where are you taking my cars?" She tilted her head, completely calm. "They were declared abandoned. I already processed the sale." Then she added something worse, almost proudly. "Junkyard paid cash. HOA approved it." That was the moment she made her mistake. Because she didn't know who she was talking to. And she definitely didn't know the cars she just sold were evidence in multiple active police case files. My name is Daniel Mercer. For over a decade, I worked law enforcement, special cases, fraud units, property crimes, and asset recovery. My job was simple in theory: find what people hide and prove what they deny. But outside the badge, I had another life. A quieter one. Inside my garage sat 3 restored classics that defined everything I had been through. The Mustang was the first. My father and I rebuilt it over 5 years. Weekends, late nights, broken tools, burned knuckles. He passed away before we finished the final tune. The Camaro came next during my burnout years, when I almost left the force. The Charger was a recovery project, literally pulled from a collapsed barn after a theft ring case. Every car had a story tied to loss, recovery, and rebuilding. That garage wasn't a hobby. It was the only place my life felt stable. So when I left for a short out-of-city assignment, just 10 days, I did everything by protocol. Security system armed garage locked with dual verification system, motion cameras, active neighbor watch, informed property monitoring service, confirmed. Nothing in my mind suggested risk. Because in my world, people don't just walk into secured property and steal entire vehicles. The moment I turned into my street, I noticed something wrong. Not subtle, not suspicious, obvious. My garage door was open, wide open, not forced, not broken, open like someone had been invited inside. I parked slowly, no sound except the ticking engine cooling down. Then I stepped out and saw it. Empty concrete, oil stains where the Mustang used to sit, tool outlines still visible on the wall like ghost memories. No Camaro, no Charger, just tire tracks leading out of my property. And then she appeared. Linda Cross, HOA president, clipboard in hand, standing like she owned the place. She didn't greet me. She didn't explain. She said, "You're back earlier than expected." I asked again, "Where are my cars?" She sighed like I was wasting her time. They were classified as abandoned property. I laughed once, not because it was funny, because it was absurd. Abandoned? She nodded. No registration activity. No communication. HOA clause allows asset recovery after 7 days. 7 days. I had been gone 10. But that wasn't even the issue. The issue was what she said next. I already sold them. That sentence changed the temperature of the entire moment. I didn't react immediately. That's something most people don't understand. Shock doesn't always look like emotion. Sometimes it looks like silence. I asked calmly, "Who did you sell them to?" She tapped her clipboard. Bayline Auto Recovery. A junkyard. Not just any junkyard. One I had previously investigated for VIN tampering and illegal resale operations. I asked one more question. "Did you verify ownership?" She smiled. The HOA verified abandonment. That's all we need. That was her second mistake. Because HOA authority does not override vehicle ownership law. And she just admitted fraud in writing. But I didn't tell her that yet. Instead, I said, "Don't move anything else from my property." She laughed, "Oh, it's already done," and walked away, like nothing happened. That's when I called my department, not as a homeowner, as an officer. Within hours, everything shifted, because now it wasn't a complaint. It was a structured investigation, and the victim was also internal law enforcement, which meant conflict-sensitive handling. I was assigned lead investigator on my own case. First stop, Bayline Auto Recovery. When I arrived, I didn't go in uniform. I went in undercover. What I saw inside confirmed everything I feared. My Mustang was already stripped of partial interior components. The Camaro had missing panels. The Charger was tagged for dismantling. And the paperwork, that was worse. Every legal transfer was signed under HOA authorization, not owner consent, not court order. Fraud documentation. I photographed everything, recorded conversations, collected VIN traces. But the real discovery came from the yard manager. He said something casually. HOA lady said they were part of a clearance batch. She even insisted on cash payout. Cash payout. That wasn't ignorance. That was intent. Back at the department, the file expanded fast. What started as stolen vehicles became fraudulent asset claims, abuse of HOA authority, illegal sale of private property, potential money laundering via junkyard transactions. Then something else surfaced. This wasn't her first case. There were prior complaints, all dismissed, all buried under paperwork. But now, with police oversight directly involved, everything reopened. And Linda Cross's entire history started collapsing. The next HOA meeting was scheduled fast. Linda didn't know the investigation had escalated. She still thought this was a property misunderstanding. The meeting hall was full. Residents, documents, tension. Linda stood confidently at the front. "We are maintaining community standards." I walked in mid-sentence. No badge yet, just presence. She noticed me and smirked. "You again." I sat down and placed a folder on the table. "Continue," I said. She tried, but something in the room shifted. I opened the file. Photos, VIN records, junkyard logs, audio transcripts. Then I spoke. "You didn't dispose of abandoned vehicles. You illegally sold private collector cars." She frowned. "You don't understand HOA law," I interrupted. "This isn't HOA law." Pause. "This is criminal law." Silence hit the room. Then I stood up and finally said it clearly. "I'm Detective Mercer, and this is now an active investigation." The moment landed like a hammer. Linda froze. For the first time, she wasn't in control. Within days, search warrants executed, junkyard operations suspended, financial records seized, HOA authority temporarily stripped. Linda tried defending herself, but every statement she made contradicted evidence. She claimed ignorance, but signed documents proved intent. She claimed authority, but law proved overreach. And slowly, everything unraveled. My cars were recovered, but not untouched. They had been stripped, moved, and partially damaged. Restoration took months, but the real damage wasn't mechanical. It was trust, because someone had walked into a system they didn't understand and used authority like a weapon. The sentencing wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no last-minute defense, just facts and consequences. Linda Cross was convicted on multiple counts: fraud, theft, abuse of authority. As I left the courthouse, there was no satisfaction, just finality. Because in the end, this wasn't about revenge. It was about what happens when someone underestimates the difference between power and authority and realizes too late that the person they targeted was the one person trained to make sure people like her don't get away with it.